Welcome to Subramani. If you have been noticing, I've been doing a series of videos on business succession planning and why personal finance is very important for small entrepreneurs, etc. So one of the things which keeps coming up is how do you handle the succession planning of your business? Three stages. One, you have one son or one daughter who wants to take over and run it. Second, you have 2-3 kids. You do not know how to split the business between them. The third is none of your kids are interested in this, and you need to look for an outsider to do the succession planning, and one of the persons whom you're considering could be your employee. So these are three different stages. So let's come to stage one. You have a son or a daughter who is interested in taking your business and running it, but you're not very sure whether they will really continue it beyond your lifetime. Let's say you're 52 years, 53 years of age, your son is about 30 years of age, or 25, 26 years of age, and you want to broach the topic saying, do you want to be in my business? And the answers are not very simple. You have various parts of your business. You are a manufacturer, you also are a trader, you buy other products and you brand it and you sell it. So your skill is in manufacturing, your skill is in procuring, and your skill is in creating a brand with which you are dealing with. So your son or daughter may not be interested in the manufacturing portion, they may not be interested in the trading portion, they may be interested only in the marketing portion, and say, okay, I will procure everything. You are procuring 50%, you're making 50%, you're procuring, and 100% you're selling. I will do 100% procuring and I will do selling. I will get rid of the manufacturing. So see how you want to structure the whole business in such a way that your son or daughter is interested. Also, what happens is, in case of an employee, if you're not happy with what the employee is doing, you can sack the employee. You cannot sack your son or daughter. So when your son or daughter come into the business, the chances are you will treat them like an errand boy and say, ye bhi karo, wo bhi karo, simply because you say, oh, when I started my life, I did all this. But your children are not going to see it that way. Your children are children of a successful person, right? So they don't know what sacrifices you did, what you did at the start. Your business is a 30-year-old business. It's not a 3-year-old business. So this 30-year-old business which you started when you were 22, 23 years of age has been now very successful, and your family looks at it as a cash cow which you have used to buy a house, buy a second house, buy a couple of cars, take foreign vacations, right? So it has allowed you to do all that. So they just assume that here is a constant. Dad goes in the morning, comes back in the evening, and it will continue giving this cash flow with which we can maintain this standard of living. May or may not be true, right? Your children may have to go there, work hard, and make sure that the employees meet them, trust them, and the whole business can continue. Your son or daughter has to be willing to go and meet all those people, create those relationships. See, those relationships are there, but it does not mean that your son or daughter can take it for granted, right? So if a friend calls me and says, do something, I'll do it. If my friend's son calls me, I expect him to talk to me very, very differently. I may or may not do it. I may not drop everything and attend to that. I may do something else. So your son or daughter have to establish their own relationship with whether it is with tax professionals, whether it is their chartered accountants, whether it is the lawyer, whether it is the supplier, the manufacturer, right? With everybody, he has to now go, or she has to now go and establish those relationships. In some businesses, gender could be a big issue. You may have got away with certain things, your daughter may not be able to get away with certain things. Your daughter may want to do things a little differently. You should not interfere in that, right? So it's very carefully that the whole thing has to be done. In case you have a son, I'm a little worried also about the son getting into a bad marriage and losing everything, losing the whole business. 50% of the business is gone, one shot, and everything is gone. So you have to be very careful about those things, right? You don't want to take those kind of chances. So maybe creating a legal structure to protect your son, protect your daughter, right? Doing prenup agreements so that you don't, bad marriage does not wipe out the business. All this necessary. So maybe it requires a trust, maybe it requires some kind of a ring fencing your business. So all that assuming your child is interested. What happens if you have 2-3 children and you do not know how to break up the business? What happens to the kid who is in control, and how are the others who are not in control rewarded for it? Let's say your business is worth 50 crores on an assumption that if you're able to sell it, and you have 2 kids, and one kid is not interested in that business at all. One kid says, oh, I want to become an architect and I want to just go off on my own. And the other kid says, okay, I'll run the business. Should the kid who's not at all interested in the business be a part? Should he or she inherit some part of the business? It's your call. I'm not giving a call either way. And what happens if both your children are interested in the business? Going forward, one day they will split. Even the Ambani is split, right? So why not make the transition very smooth and make sure that, okay, you handle manufacturing, you handle sales, or you say, okay, you handle manufacturing and you create your own sales, you create trading and create your own sales. So this company will pay you so much in compensation. Separating the business today may make more sense, unless you're very sure that the brothers will continue or the brother and sister will continue. There's always the risk that your daughter gets married and that guy says, okay, now let's go to US or whatever. What happens if she migrates? How are you going to handle all that? So right, so one is when you have one kid and that kid is handling your business, then it's just a communication thing. Over next 10-12 years you will be able to hand over smoothly. It's not going to be very easy, but you have to give up your controls. You'll say, okay, I'll work only 4 days a week, I'll work only 3 days a week. So slowly you cut the umbilical cord. It never gets cut in one day. When there are 2 children with some conflicting interests, both are interested, or one is interested, one is not interested, how are you going to compensate the other kid? Do you need to compensate at all? But suppose your house and etc., all other assets are worth 10 crores and your business is worth 50 crores. Would it be fair to cut off the kid who is not interested in the business and say you will get nothing out of that, and out of these personal assets you will share half? I don't know whether it is fair, unfair, etc., right? And can you tell one kid of yours to say, okay, you take over the business, but you will pay 2 lakhs per month or 3 lakhs per month for the rest of your life to your brother or sister? What happens if the business doesn't do well? Or what happens if the business does extremely well? Your son who's taken over your business is doing very well and he does an IPO and he's the sole proprietor, and suddenly, and your other son or other daughter who is not interested, is not doing so well in life, will they try to interfere, right? You have to answer all these questions when you're alive and kicking and your children are in a position to listen to you and understand what you're doing. So this is the role that children have to play. Your spouse has a very important role, because if you drop dead before completing the documentation, your spouse will have to step in and handle it. What happens if you're partners in your business? So you introduce your son and your partner says, okay, you were getting 50%, but your son will get only 40% and I'll get 60% because he's not going to contribute. Or you say, okay, I will continue, my son will also continue, my son will get 20% out of mine, but my son will also get a salary because he's going to be working on a full time, right? So handling your partners, handling your other shareholders, other stakeholders, doing the whole thing, that this is part one. When you have one son, now you have 2 children and you're doing all this. And a third situation where your children are not interested. Either you don't have children or your children are not interested. They've all got professionally qualified, they've migrated, whatever. It's become a doctor, architect, CA, not interested in your business. Then how do you hand it over? Do you give it to your employee? Do you start looking for a partner? I think the best is to look for a partner, because you may not have recruited great quality employees right from day one. So the people who are with you may be very good, very efficient, but may not have the drive and the fire in the belly to run the business. And if a business is not run successfully, professionally, it just withers away and dies. So you don't want that to happen, because you want to quit at 60, 65 and you presumably will live till 90. So another 25 years, you don't want to see that business wither away because you've built it over 30 years. So how do you do succession planning there? Right, so yes, you look for a partner, somebody who's 20-30 years younger to you. You sit down with that person and say, this is how you're going to manage, this is what you will do, and I'm going to give this business to you slowly. Buy me out at 5% every year over the next 10 years, and then the balance we can decide what to do. I will want a pension from that. So some kind of a succession planning with employees, or with 3-4 employees, saying one of you should bring in so much money and take it over, or things like that, or getting a new partner, or selling your whole business to a third party. Even if you want to sell your business to a third party, you have to have a succession plan in place. So what happens if I'm not there? Which of my employees can handle what, right? All that when I know all that, will I buy your business as a going concern? So these are all things which you have to consider while you're planning your retirement from your business. Thank you.